I used to think my family was unbreakable. We had our problems, sure, but we had something real. Something I believed would last forever. Until the day my sister looked my parents in the eye and destroyed everything with a single lie. They say blood is thicker than water, that family is forever. But what happens when the person you've protected your whole life becomes the one who wants to see you burn? What happens when trust shatters so completely that you're not sure it can ever be put back together? This is the story of how I lost my family in a single night, and how I learned that sometimes the people closest to you are the ones capable of the deepest betrayal. Welcome to my Reddit diaries, where every story reveals the unseen battles within families. Don't forget to subscribe, and tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? My name is Jake. I'm 28 years old, and 3 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. I'd spent the last 5 years working abroad, climbing the corporate ladder in tech consulting, saving every penny I could. I'd finally landed a position back home that would let me stay close to my family while making enough money to help them out. My parents had been struggling since Dad retired from the fire department. The pension wasn't enough, and Mom's salary as a school counselor could only stretch so far. I wanted to be the son who came through for them, the one who made their sacrifices worth it. I hadn't seen Emma, my little sister, in almost a year. We drifted apart while I was overseas. She'd always been the creative one, the free spirit who couldn't quite find her footing in the real world. She dropped out of college after 2 years, bounced between jobs, moved back in with our parents twice. I'll be honest, I judged her for it. I thought she just needed to grow up, to take responsibility like I had. Looking back now, I realize how little I actually understood about what she was going through. But that night, when I walked into my parents' house for my welcome home dinner, I had no idea that my sister had already decided I was the enemy. The house looked exactly like I remembered. Family photos lined the hallway. Me in my high school football uniform. Emma at her 8th grade recital, holding a violin. Our parents on their 25th anniversary. The smell of Mom's pot roast filled the air, and for a moment, everything felt right. Dad opened the door and pulled me into one of those crushing hugs that only fathers can give. His beard was grayer than I remembered, his shoulders a little more hunched, but his grip was still strong. "Good to have you home, son." Mom appeared behind him, wiping her hands on her apron, tears already streaming down her face. She held my face in her hands like she used to when I was a kid. "Look at you. My successful boy, all grown up." Emma was sitting at the dining table when we walked in. She glanced up from her phone, gave me a small smile, and said hey. That was it. Just hey. No hug, no excitement, nothing. I tried not to let it bother me. Emma had always been moody, always kept things close to the chest. I figured she was just being her usual distant self. Dinner started out fine. Dad asked about my new job. Mom wanted to know if I was seeing anyone. I told them about the apartment I'd found, about how good it felt to be back in a place where I actually knew people. And then I made the mistake of bringing up money. "I've been looking at your mortgage situation. I think I can help you guys refinance, maybe even cover a few months while we get things sorted out." Dad's expression shifted. Pride mixed with something else. Maybe. He hated accepting help, even from his own son. "Jake, you don't have to do that." I wanted Dad. "You guys put me through college. Let me do this." That's when I noticed Emma had stopped eating. Her fork was frozen halfway to her mouth, her eyes locked on her plate. Mom reached over and touched her hand. "Sweetie, you okay?" Emma stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. She grabbed her phone and walked toward the stairs without a word. Mom called after her, but Emma was already gone, her footsteps heavy on the staircase above us. I looked at Dad, confused. He just shook his head. "She's going through something. You know how she gets." But I didn't know. I'd been gone for 5 years. I didn't know anything about who my sister had become. I finished dinner making small talk, trying to ignore the empty chair across from me. When I left that night, I hugged my parents goodbye and told them I'd be back soon. I didn't know it would be 3 days before I'd set foot in that house again. And when I did, everything would be different. The call came on a Tuesday morning. I was unpacking boxes in my new apartment when my phone rang. Mom's name flashed on the screen. I answered expecting her usual cheerful voice, maybe an invitation to lunch. Instead, I heard something I'd never heard before. "Jake, what did you do to your sister?" My stomach dropped. I asked her what she was talking about, but she just kept repeating the question, her voice rising with each word. "What did you do? What did you do?" I told her I'd be right there and hung up. The drive to their house was only 15 minutes, but it felt like hours. My mind raced through every interaction I'd had with Emma in the past year. Every text message, every phone call. I couldn't think of a single thing I'd done that would warrant this kind of reaction. When I walked through the front door, the house felt different. The warmth was gone. Dad was sitting in his recliner, his hands clasped together, staring at the floor. Mom was on the couch, tissues balled up in her fists. Neither of them looked at me when I entered. "Where's Emma?" "Upstairs." She doesn't want to see you. I turned to Dad, waiting for him to explain, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. She told us everything, Jake. About the money. About what you've been doing. What money? Mom, I don't understand. She pulled out her phone and showed me a series of text messages. They were supposedly from me, asking Emma for money. $5,000. The messages talked about a bad investment, about needing to cover it before our parents found out. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. I never sent these. This isn't even my number anymore. I changed it when I moved overseas. Then explain these. Dad handed me a stack of papers. Bank statements with my name on them, showing withdrawals from his retirement account last Christmas. Transactions I knew nothing about. I flipped through them, my hands shaking. This is fake. I didn't do any of this. You have to believe me. Emma said you'd deny it. Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. Emma said, my little sister, the one I'd protected from bullies in middle school, the one I'd helped move into her first apartment, the one I'd sent money to when she was short on rent. She'd looked my parents in the eye and told them I was a thief. Can I talk to her? Please, just let me talk to her. Mom shook her head. She was crying now, openly, her shoulders shaking with each sob. She's scared of you, Jake. She said you threatened her if she told anyone. The room started spinning. I felt like I was falling, like the ground had opened up beneath me and I was tumbling into nothing. This couldn't be happening. This wasn't real. Dad, you know me. You know I would never do this. He finally looked up, and what I saw in his eyes broke something inside me. After 28 years, after everything we'd been through together, my own father doubted me. He stood up slowly, his hands clenched at his sides. I want to believe you, son. I really do. But Emma has proof. She has evidence. And right now, I don't know what to think. So that's it? You're just going to take her word over mine? I'm saying we need time to figure this out. I'm saying you should probably leave. The finality in his voice left no room for argument. I looked at Mom, hoping she'd say something, anything, but she just turned away. I walked toward the stairs, thinking maybe if I could just see Emma, just talk to her face to face, I could fix this. But Dad stepped in front of me. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. I left. What else could I do? I walked out of my childhood home and stood on the front porch as the door closed behind me. The sky had turned gray, clouds rolling in from the west. Rain started to fall, light at first, then harder. I walked to my car but couldn't bring myself to get in. Instead, I stood there, letting the rain soak through my clothes, staring up at the second-floor window where Emma's bedroom light glowed warm and yellow. And then I saw her. She was standing at the window, looking down at me. For a moment, our eyes met. I expected to see guilt, or fear, or even anger. But what I saw was something else entirely. Something cold and calculated. She held my gaze for 3 long seconds, and then she stepped back into the shadows and closed the curtain. That's when I knew. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't some kind of mistake. My sister had planned this. She'd forged documents, manipulated evidence, and lied to our parents with a straight face. And she'd done it all to destroy me. I got in my car and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove through the rain, my phone buzzing with ignored calls, my mind trying to process what had just happened. By the time I pulled into a motel parking lot on the edge of town, it was dark. I sat in my car, watching the neon vacancy sign flicker, and I realized something. I'd lost my family in a single night. And I had no idea how to get them back. I didn't know it then, but that moment, standing in the rain, watching my family slip through my fingers, that was the moment everything changed. Because I realized my sister didn't just lie about me. She wanted to destroy me. And she'd succeeded. They say the truth always comes out. But what they don't tell you is how long you have to suffer in the lie first. How many nights you'll spend staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation, every moment, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. How many times you'll reach for your phone to call your mother, only to remember that she's not answering anymore. I spent 3 days in that motel room. 3 days of ignored calls and unanswered texts. My mother blocked me on social media. My father sent a single message that felt like a knife to the chest. Until you own up to what you've done, stay away. I stared at those words until they blurred together. Own up to what I'd done. I hadn't done anything except trust the wrong person. On the 4th day, I decided I wasn't going down without a fight. If Emma wanted to destroy me, she was going to have to work harder than a few forged documents and fake text messages. I called my bank first. The woman on the other end was polite, professional. She pulled up my account history going back 3 years. No transactions matched what Emma had shown my parents. No withdrawals from my father's retirement account. No suspicious activity whatsoever. She sent me official statements with the bank seal. Real proof, not the manufactured kind. Next, I went through my phone. Every text conversation I'd ever had with Emma was still there. I scrolled back months, then years. Nothing even remotely close to what she'd shown our parents. The screenshots she'd provided were complete fabrications. I took photos of everything, backed it all up to 3 different cloud services. I wasn't going to let her erase the truth. But I knew evidence alone wouldn't be enough. My mother had already made up her mind. She'd looked at Emma's tears and decided that was all the proof she needed. I needed something more. I needed someone who knew what Emma had been going through, someone who might understand why she'd done this. That's when I remembered Casey, Emma's roommate from 2 years ago, before she'd moved back in with our parents. They'd been close once. If anyone knew what was really going on in Emma's head, it would be her. I found Casey's number in an old group chat and sent her a message. I need to talk to you about Emma. It's important. She didn't respond for 6 hours. When she finally did, all she said was, "Coffee. Tomorrow. Come alone." We met at a cafe on the other side of town, far from anywhere our parents might see us. Casey looked different than I remembered. Thinner, tired. She ordered a black coffee and wouldn't meet my eyes when she sat down. I shouldn't be here. Emma would kill me if she knew. "Casey, please. I need to understand what's happening." She stirred her coffee for a long time before she spoke. When she finally did, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Emma's been struggling. Really struggling. She lost her job 3 months ago. Got fired for lying to her manager about why she missed a shift. The bills piled up. She couldn't afford her car payment, her credit cards. She was drowning. Why didn't she tell me? I would have helped her. Because you're part of the problem, Jake. Don't you get that? Your parents have been comparing her to you her entire life. Every time you sent money home, every time you called with good news about your career, it was another reminder that she wasn't good enough. That she'd failed. The words stung because I knew they were true. I'd been so focused on my own success that I'd never stopped to think about how it made Emma feel. How every achievement of mine was another weight on her shoulders. 2 weeks before you came home, Casey continued, Emma found out your parents were planning to loan you money to start a business. She lost it. She came to my apartment at midnight, crying, saying that they'd always choose you. That you'd get everything and she'd get nothing. It wasn't like that. I was going to help them, not take from them. I know that. But Emma didn't see it that way. She kept saying she needed to protect herself. That she had to do something before it was too late. Casey paused, her hands wrapped around her coffee cup. She told me she had a plan. She said you'd never get their inheritance. That she'd make sure of it. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a desperate act born from a moment of panic. This was calculated. Premeditated. Emma had spent weeks planning how to destroy me. There's something else, Casey said. Something I don't think even your parents know. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. It was dated 6 weeks ago. Emma at a doctor's office, a small ultrasound image in her hands. My heart stopped. She's pregnant, Jake. About 4 months along. The father bailed when she told him. She's been dealing with this completely alone. The medical bills, the fear of telling your parents, all of it. When she found out they were helping you instead of saving money for her, she panicked. She needed that money, and she was willing to do whatever it took to get it. Everything suddenly made terrible sense. The desperation. The lies. The cold calculation in her eyes when she watched me from her window. Emma wasn't just jealous. She was terrified. And she decided that destroying me was the only way to save herself. I sat there for a long time, processing everything Casey had told me. Part of me wanted to hate Emma. Part of me wanted to march over to my parents' house and expose every lie she'd told. But another part of me, a part one didn't want to acknowledge, understood. I understood what it felt like to be desperate, to feel like the world was closing in and you had no way out. I need to talk to her, I said finally. Face to face. No parents, no witnesses. Just me and Emma. Casey shook her head. She won't agree to that. Tell her I know about the baby. Tell her I know everything. And tell her that if she doesn't meet me, I'm going to my parents with proof that she's been lying. Real proof that they can't ignore. Casey looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. She pulled out her phone and typed out a message. We sat in silence, waiting. 5 minutes later, her phone buzzed. She'll meet you. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, at the coffee shop on 5th Street. She says to come alone. I left the cafe with my heart pounding. I had 24 hours to figure out what I was going to say to the sister who'd tried to destroy me. 24 hours to decide whether I wanted justice or understanding. Whether I wanted to win or to heal. That night, lying in my motel room, I recorded a voice memo to myself. I needed to remember why I was doing this. Why I hadn't just given up and walked away. My sister broke our family. She lied, she manipulated, she hurt everyone who loved her. But she's still my sister. And tomorrow, I'm going to look her in the eye and ask her why. And maybe, if I'm lucky, I'll finally understand what I've been too blind to see all along. I didn't know it then, but that conversation would change everything. Because sometimes the truth isn't about being right. Sometimes it's about finally seeing the whole picture, even when it breaks your heart to look at it. The coffee shop on 5th Street was nearly empty when I arrived. 7 o'clock on a Thursday night, most people were home with their families. The irony wasn't lost on me. I ordered a black coffee I didn't want and sat at a table in the back corner, watching the door. My hands were shaking. I'd rehearsed what I was going to say 100 times, but now that the moment was here, every word I'd prepared felt wrong. Emma walked in at 7:15. She looked smaller than I remembered. Thinner. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and she wore an oversized sweater that couldn't quite hide the small bump at her stomach. When our eyes met, I saw something I hadn't expected. Shame. She sat down across from me without ordering anything. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence stretched between us like a chasm, years of unspoken resentment and misunderstanding filling the space. Casey told you, she said finally. It wasn't a question. About the baby? Yeah. About the lies? I figured that out on my own. Emma's jaw tightened. So what now? You're going to run to Mom and Dad with your evidence? Prove I'm the terrible person everyone already thinks I am? Is that what you think? That people think you're terrible? I know what they think, Jake. I've known my whole life. The disappointment. The comparisons. You were always the golden child. The one who did everything right. And I was the screw-up who couldn't even finish college. Her voice cracked on the last word, and I saw tears forming in her eyes. But I wasn't ready to let her off the hook. Not yet. So you decided to destroy me instead? To lie to our parents and make them think I stole from them? How does that make any of this better? It doesn't. The words came out as a whisper. It doesn't make anything better. But I was desperate, Jake. I found out I was pregnant. The father wanted nothing to do with me. I just lost my job. I couldn't pay rent. I couldn't afford the medical bills. And then I found out Mom and Dad were planning to give you money for a business. Money I needed just to survive. They would have helped you if you'd asked. Would they? Emma looked up at me, her eyes red. Or would they have lectured me about responsibility? About making better choices? About being more like you? I wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong. But deep down, I knew she wasn't. Our parents had always been harder on Emma. Every mistake she made was amplified, analyzed, compared to my successes. I'd been oblivious to it because I was the one benefiting from the comparison. So you decided to take me down, I said. You forged documents. You manipulated screenshots. You looked Mom and Dad in the eye and lied about me. I panicked. Emma's voice broke completely now, tears streaming down her face. I found those bank statements online, learned how to edit them. I changed the screenshots of our old conversations. It started as just an idea, something I'd never actually do. But then you came home and everyone was so happy to see you, and I just felt so invisible. So I did it. And once I started, I couldn't stop. It spiraled so fast. You destroyed our family, Emma. I know. She put her head in her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs. I know what I did. And I hate myself for it. Every single day I wake up and hate myself a little more. But I didn't know how to take it back. I didn't know how to admit what I'd done without losing everything. I sat there watching my little sister fall apart, and something inside me shifted. Yes, she'd hurt me. Yes, she'd lied and manipulated and nearly destroyed my relationship with our parents. But she was also broken. She was scared and alone and carrying a child she didn't know how to care for. And I realized that staying angry, that pushing for justice or revenge wouldn't fix anything. It would just break us all a little bit more. You have to tell them, I said quietly. Mom and Dad. You have to tell them everything. Emma looked up, her face pale. They'll never forgive me. Maybe not. But they deserve the truth. And so do I. And then what? You press charges? I go to jail? I thought about that. Late at night in my motel room, I'd imagined Emma being prosecuted for fraud. Part of me wanted it. Wanted her to face real consequences for what she'd done. But then I thought about the baby. About a kid growing up knowing their mother was in prison because she'd made desperate choices when she was scared. No charges, I said. But you have to make this right. You tell Mom and Dad everything. You go to therapy. You let me help you get back on your feet. And you pay them back every cent you actually borrowed. It'll take time, but you do it. Why would you help me after what I did? Because you're my sister. Because that baby deserves better than parents who've given up on each other. And because staying angry isn't going to fix what's broken. The family meeting happened 2 days later. Emma confessed everything in our parents' living room, the same room where she'd first told her lies. Mom cried. Dad was silent, his jaw clenched so tight I thought it might break. But they listened. And when Emma was done, when she'd laid out every lie and every manipulation, Mom did something I didn't expect. She reached out and took Emma's hand. You should have come to us, she said. We would have helped you. I was scared you'd be disappointed. We are disappointed. But not because you needed help. Because you didn't trust us enough to ask for it. Dad finally spoke, his voice rough with emotion. And Jake, You owe your brother more than just an apology. Emma turned to me, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know that's not enough, but I don't know what else to say. I nodded. It wasn't enough. Not even close. But it was a start. The months that followed weren't easy. Emma moved back home, attended therapy twice a week, and found a part-time job that accommodated her pregnancy. I helped her set up a payment plan for our parents and went with her to doctor's appointments when she asked. Trust wasn't rebuilt overnight. Some days I still felt the anger bubbling up, the resentment of what she'd taken from me. But slowly, painfully, we found our way back to something that resembled a family. 6 months after that night in the coffee shop, I stood in a hospital room holding my nephew for the first time. Emma asked me to be his godfather. I said yes. Because family isn't about being perfect. It's about showing up even when it's hard. It's about choosing forgiveness over bitterness, even when forgiveness feels impossible. People ask me if I ever really forgave her. Honestly, some days I'm still working on it. The betrayal left scars that haven't fully healed. But I learned something through all of this. Families hurt each other. We fail each other. We make terrible choices and cause unimaginable pain. But we also have the power to rebuild, if we're willing to do the hard work. My sister destroyed our family's trust. But in piecing it back together, we built something stronger. Something real. Not the perfect family illusion we had before, but something honest. And maybe that's what family was always supposed to be. If there's one thing I want you to take from this story, it's this. The truth might hurt. It might tear you apart. But it's the only foundation worth building on. Because lies will destroy you, but the truth can set you free. If this story moved you, hit that subscribe button and join the My Reddit Diaries family. Share your own stories in the comments. Let me know if you've ever faced betrayal from someone you loved and how you found your way through it. Because we're all just trying to do better. And sometimes that's enough. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And take care of each other.